Olá, boa noite. Tudo bem? I'm going to go ahead in English because it's the end of the day. It's easier for me and it's harder for you. So the program overall has been fantastic to be able to watch. In my case, for the last 9 years, it's older than that. It's grown a lot. It's gotten a lot more sophisticated. There's a lot more information for you. So each year, in a certain sense, I feel like we add less and less value, which is good in the sense of this is really walking on its own 2 feet. There's a lot of information for you all. I think what we might be able to add, information on different labs, information on techniques, information on learning. I won't touch on any of that because I would not be as good a messenger for that. But the encouragement to go abroad, I've lived in Brazil for 15 years. Our office has been here for 9. I've lived in 4 different countries. I've had a kid in one country, a kid here in Brazil, and pretty mixed up internationally, and have had the chance to work with a lot of students from the USP, from other universities in Brazil. The experiences are very different, but it's rare to find somebody, even if they had a very difficult time, who said this wasn't worth doing. And I would say the same thing to students from Harvard going anywhere. Usually the response is, I should have done this earlier. I should have not viewed this as potentially giving up a period of time. And I see this both here at the USP. It's a very competitive, excellent program where you're stopping and going into the unknown. We see the exact same thing with Harvard students saying, I need to leave Harvard, I need to go. And in both cases, mostly, people say, I wish I had done this earlier. So just in terms of messages, I think that in addition, over the last 9 years, within the last 5 years, the number of Brazilians studying in degree programs at Harvard has gone from 61 to 104. There has been a lot of growth in terms of this program. There are 100 people plus who have spent a full year doing research experiences. There are lots of Brazilians in Boston, thankfully within Harvard, but also outside of Boston. And spending time in an island is probably not a good use of time. So it's nice that you saw lots of people that spoke English. I'm glad that that happened. But avoiding just going and saying, let me reproduce an island. It takes a lot of energy to go back to not being comfortable, to not speaking, to not understanding the culture, to not feeling comfortable. But that's probably why a lot of you are thinking about going. And if it's not difficult, it's difficult here for different reasons. It would be difficult there, you would hope, and challenging. So I would say that, my experience with Brazil in the university is that Brazil has grown a tremendous amount. There's a lot more visibility. There's a lot more understanding of Brazil than there used to be. But I just went to fantastic student conferences that were organized by Brazilians, so people have gotten organized there as well. There was a Justice of the Supreme Court, a former presidential candidate and governor. All of these people were brought together by the students there. But there was a session that was in Portuguese. Most of the sessions were in Portuguese. There were Brazilians from Harvard. There were Brazilians from other universities close by. And I looked around, and there were 4 people wearing headphones when the people were presenting in Portuguese. So that, to me, was, we've made great progress. There are a lot of Brazilians. There are a lot of interesting content. There are a lot of very senior people. There's a lot of young people that are engaged. There's also 200 people here, which is 200 very smart Brazilians talking to Brazilians about Brazil outside of Brazil. That's not particularly global. So I would just urge you to take advantage of the opportunity to not spend all of your time with people you know, to not spend all of your time in a little group. It might be less comfortable. It might be more solitary. But you'll probably end up learning a whole bunch more. So seeing as we can now offer very, very little in terms of telling you about programs that you understand better than we do, one thing that I'd be happy to do, and this probably should be done through a specific person, is figure out how to try to make those connections, because Brazil receives people very well. It's very warm. I'm interested in meeting the person you spoke of before. Sounds like quite a character. But sometimes the U.S. isn't as warm at receiving people. The ideal would be to take advantage of relationships that already exist. So somebody mentioned, oh, I go to the gym. So you put yourself in a position repeatedly to see people, and then you may get to know them. So I'd like to help to the extent possible. You have already helped a great deal, you collectively, BFM USP. There's a Harvard Medical School student now, alum, Numa Perez, who just graduated. He lived in my basement, but it was a nice basement. So we have a little bit of street cred. We have some credibility. We have some people that are willing to help. And I think that that might help people get over the challenges of meeting people outside the lab, meeting people who aren't Brazilians. So once the class of people gets picked, I would be happy to work with one or two people to try to find a few people in Boston. There's a lot of diversity across the campus. There's a lot that can be taken advantage of. And there are many people, because we work with people coming to Brazil, who have a soft spot for Brazil and who aren't Brazilian, who might be interested in helping with some of the social moving and other things within reason. So I would definitely encourage you all, to think hard about what you want to get out of your time being abroad, if the time makes sense. I'm a big believer of it and fan of it. And this group also wouldn't exist if there weren't a professor who had gone, 20 years ago, and then had maintained that relationship over time. So whether that's in your labs or whether, I think that this is the power of this group and of leveraging things. So when you're there, please think about how you can help be a good ambassador. The last thing I'll say is we no longer have the same role in needing to make this program work. There's been a lot of growth of Brazilians at the undergraduate level at Harvard. There were 4 total over 4 years, 10 years ago. There are 14 this year. There will be more next year because there were more than 5 accepted. So that's totally changed the dynamic of what needs to be done. There are very, very few Brazilians doing PhDs, which isn't the objective of this one-year program, but you'd all be doing research. This creates a big problem. The reason this whole program can exist is because of a relationship between professors way back when. There aren't very many of those. The number of Brazilians at Harvard is 104. The percentage of Brazilians who are doing PhD programs is 12.5%. The percentage of Mexicans doing at Harvard, so of the total number of Mexicans, the number of Mexicans, is 25% roughly. It's about 36% for Colombia. It's 45% for China. So Brazil is it doesn't have very many PhDs. Some of that is their strong, wonderful PhD programs here. I'm not a statement about that, but it just makes it very difficult to build these kinds of programs. So if anybody, after graduating from the program, or if anybody really loves basic research, we actually had a group here from admissions from 6 different schools. There were 500 people last night at an event. We had a whole series of meetings. And one of the goals is to have stronger academic ties, which means more people doing PhDs. That's 6 years. That's not for everybody. Financing challenges are not as big as they are in some other areas, but it's a big life decision. So this is more to the alumni of the program or to anybody who goes however many years into the future. But that's an area where, okay, some progress in these areas, now what can we do? So we're trying to do that. It's been great watching this program. I'm happy to answer any questions about, I'm originally from the Boston area. I think you can get that from others in the group, but if you have any questions that I might be decent at answering, please just ask.
I just wanted you to ask for you to make it clear. So you can ask in Portuguese if you wish, okay? So just for you to make it clear, some people make a confusion. They think that you are here as a director from Dr. Class Harvard. They think that this program is a degree program or something related to Harvard. And we make it clear that it isn't, so I just wanted you to ask you to make it clear as well. So we have professors coming here to make this selection, but not relate to an official project inside Harvard.
Sure. So this is not a degree program. This is not official, but one of the things actually, so that's true. This is not a degree program. This is not through central admissions. This has grown and gotten scale because individuals really care a great deal about it. Both here, the people who have organized it, the alumni of the program, and the researchers and faculty at Harvard who in the Pessoa Física are saying, I'm interested in making this work. So if you run into challenges, in terms of administration or things, you need to know that the people who are making it work, it's not that it doesn't work well compared to the past or it's a very formatted program. It's a miracle that it works as well as it does, and it has really grown. So it's actually gone from being, two friends saying, I'd like to help one student that I know who's really important to me, can you do that? Somebody saying yes, to this. So it's matured a great deal, and it actually is something that is on the radar screen of many people at the university. Another person that I can introduce is the person at the university who works on funding questions, a lot of which resulted from this program. But it is not a formal degree program at the university. So you need to have a both positive attitude to make improvements to the program and point out things that can be made better, but understand that this is the result of creating something from zero. So, yeah, that's a good point.
What is the official status of a student that goes there? Like, because we get a gym card and we get Maria Beatriz actually joined the rugby team. So.
Yeah. So there might be some people who are alumni who can answer this better than I can, because I'm 5,000 miles away as well, but each time I go back to Boston and Cambridge, I try to meet with John Godleski and with other lab heads, and also with Patrice Ayers, who's a key administrator who personally, in addition, she wouldn't do as good a job with this if it were just a small piece of her job. She really cares a lot about it. And there are things such as an ID. So it's not that this is not at all, it's not off the radar, it's not hidden. In fact, deans know about this program, the vice provost's office knows about this program, the president of the Brazil knows about this program, the president of Harvard University knows about this program. It's not low profile. So there are certain things that people do get IDs. People need to have appropriate visas. So it's to say that it's not at all a program. Thankfully, it's gone, it's somewhere in the middle. Hopefully it continues to go further, but there are a lot of things to take advantage of, and I think the fellow students here can tell you what you can and cannot do. I think I had a former boss, not at Harvard, and this is probably dangerous advice to give, but he said, asking for permission is like asking for rejection. So I would take the be proactive, don't think it's not possible, think it is possible, but also be thinking about that person who's calling you all the time to say, are you going to be there, and know that if you're not, so hopefully most people don't do that, and you have a degree of trust. But even the people who aren't calling are wondering if you're there and are noticing if you're not there. So, but if people hadn't taken this seriously and hadn't done a good job, you all wouldn't be here, and there wouldn't be increasing numbers of labs willing to receive students. So thank you all very much. Look forward to hopefully seeing many of you after the application process and interview process, and we'll see if we can get you to fogo de chão instead of eating something not as good.